everybody, I'm Seth for As Media Changes. Just want to say thank you so much to everybody that's been passing out the link for my last video about the 5 tips for pitching your local TV news station. Totally blown away from the feedback. So I'm hearing you. You guys said you wanted a video on assignment editor lingo, and that's what I'm bringing to you today. So I'm going to give you the lingo that the assignment editors use, and I'm going to tell you how you can use that to get your stories covered. Now, TV News has a lot of lingo. I'm not going to give you everything. I'm just going to give you what I think you guys need to know in order to pitch your stories better and get more coverage. So, let's dive right in. This is Understanding TV News Lingo, number 1. The VOSOT. VO stands for voice over, and SOT stands for sound on tape. Now, these can be independent things, but what matters to you is putting them together, VOSOT. What it literally means is that either whether it's an anchor or a reporter, they're going to be speaking over video about a news story, and at the end of it there's going to be a soundbite from somebody that they interviewed. That's what a VOSOT is, and that's one of the key ways that producers decide to tell a story. One of the other key ways that stories are told through TV news is with packages, also known as packs. The key is that there's not just one kind of package, there's several. I heard someone mention in one of the comments, what's a NAT pack? A NAT pack, for instance, is a national package. So it's a news story that's coming from the national network and is available to all affiliates to run. But the two ways in most newsrooms you're going to see are the reporter pack and the anchor pack. The reporter pack is essentially when they send a reporter out to cover a story and they do a full piece larger than a VOSOT. It may involve doing a stand-up or a walk and talk, and it's going to have voiceover, it's going to have sound bites, it's going to be the entire story. This is the main way that reporters are telling stories on TV news, is with full reporter packages. The other way is with an anchor package, and this is just like the reporter package, but it's actually voiced over by the anchor that's hosting the news broadcast that you're watching. Finally, I want to also mention one other thing called the kicker. The kicker is a lighthearted news story that producers use to end the broadcast. So it's usually something that is uplifting or funny, and it can also be used not just at the end of the broadcast, but sometimes leading into sports or even leading into weather. So sort of at the end of a segment to end on an uplifting note. Now that's the lingo that I think you should know, but let me tell you why. Whether it's an anchor package or a reporter package or a kicker or a VOSOT, each of those is covered in a different way. And when you're covering them differently, that affects how you actually staff it, who you send out to go cover it. And that's what the assignment editor is deciding in their head when you're calling and pitching your story. They're trying to think, 1, is the story worth covering? And 2, if it is, who do I have available to send out and cover it? So the thing to understand is reporter packages take 2 people. It takes the reporter and a photographer to go out with them and tell that story. But that's the only situation where you need 2 people to come, a reporter and a photographer. And as staffing is continuously shrinking at TV news stations, it's important to utilize and understand that if you can tell a story with just a photographer, you're that much more likely to get covered. So, for instance, an anchor package. An anchor package actually means they'll send a photographer out to go film the story, and they'll bring it back to the newsroom. And it's a visual story, so it's worth a full package, but it's easy to tell. So that means that the producer, or actually the anchor back at the station, either one of them can actually write the story having never been to your event, but only looking at the footage their photographer shot. So that's why supplying a great press release is so important, and making sure that the story is very easy to tell. At the same time, a VOSOT is another example where maybe your story can be complex, but can also be told in a very simple way. So if they don't have time or they don't have the staffing, a photographer can go shoot just some quick video, get a soundbite, and they can put a VOSOT together. So now that you know the lingo, how can you use it when pitching your local assignment editors? It's simple. Tell them you can deliver on all fronts. When you pitch them, tell them that your story is easily good enough to have a reporter come out. It could make a great reporter package. Maybe there's an opportunity for a live shot. But let them know that the story is very easily told, and if they're low on staffing, if they just send a photographer, you'll personally work with the photographer to make sure they get some great sound bites. You'll line up the interview so that photographer's not running around, and you'll make sure they leave with enough content to either put together a great anchor package or at least a VOSOT. What you've done is you've given the assignment editor confidence that no matter what happens, if he sends at least one person out, he's going to get a story back for their producer to use that day. And that's what matters. If you can get an assignment editor to believe in you, they will cover your stories. Finally, let me break down the reality of a kicker. It is incredibly hard to pitch a kicker to a local news station. They just don't have the kind of staffing to go out and pick up a quick 30-second story that's going to run at the end of their broadcast. That's why so often local news will actually end with a national kicker or a national story that they can pull off the feeds. But it's not always the case. The other thing that you sometimes see is they'll send someone out to cover your event, and it'll be lighthearted, but they don't think there's a lot of news value. So rather than not running the story at all, they'll run at the end of the broadcast. So while getting a kicker is great, it's really not something you want to pitch for. Now I realize there's a whole lot more lingo out there, but this is what I think you need to know right now when pitching your local news stations. So if you come across any of the lingo and you're wondering what it is, just shoot me an email or find me on Twitter or whatever, leave a comment. I'm happy to answer and tell you if it's maybe played a role in the past with stories that I have or have not covered. So I really hope you guys appreciate this. If there's any other topics you want me to cover, let me know. I'll be happy to put a video together. And finally, please check in the next couple weeks at my blog, asmediachanges.com. I have a really exciting post coming about something that I believe is the holy grail for PR professionals pitching local TV news stations. It's a way to get your story covered nationwide with one phone call. It's pretty exciting. I haven't seen anybody talk about it yet, so please check back. And thank you guys again so much for the support. It's been so great connecting with all you guys online. I wish you all the best. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week.